All right, so I'm gonna just spitball again today. Now I do have some of my notes here, and I missed the first day, like the reaction of the first day. So I'm gonna react for the first 2 days. On the first night, big best, the best speakers. One of the best speakers, definitely AOC. Um, he or she was able to navigate the flow of the audience with the tone of her voice, which I thought was, how to get them pumped up is to be confident in what you're saying. And it's obviously easier when people like you. I also highlight of, as far as speeches, Clinton. It's crazy to see the evolution of her speaking ability, and I think there was a little bit of secondary commentary today about when women reach a certain age, and I guess in her position, so much of her life was around trying to run for, a position in politics. So it was more refined. Where this one, she really got out there, and you got to see a little bit more of her personal, you know, her personality and her, her personal quirks and speech habits. I will say the one now, normally, the whole lock him up, lock her up, uh, chance. Obviously, when Trump's crowds would do that about Hillary, it's just like, oh, and when if Kamala, sometimes Kamala speaks, there will be people, because I mean, the difference is he's actually been convicted. He's actually is a felon, and there is a possibility of maybe jail time, or the sentence would carry a minimum view of jail time, though he may not likely serve. Now, besides that, it was a very, I guess, flip of the coin situation when Hillary was speaking, and of course, she mentions his 34 convictions, not to mention his numerous bankruptcies and the Trump organization being sued numerous times and being found liable for various forms of fraud. Now, the crowd did yell, lock him up, but in this context, they were doing it as what I viewed as like a humorous retribution for all the times that he yelled at her. Like it wasn't, I believe the crowd was, basically the same performativity as a Trump crowd would if they were yelling, lock her up about Clinton. Not the same performativity. This was definitely just like, someone getting their dues and having it come back around on them. That hypocrite, or, you know, we all know that situation where, someone swore it was this and, was nasty and mean about it. And then, turns around and they're wrong. And it's hard to admit. So there was that you know play with the concept, and I will say, I mean, she still is inspiring, and all the women that future politicians stand on. Obviously, they mentioned a bunch of them in there, um, you know, but she's definitely one of them. I mean, the first female nominee. I mean, with the fact that the Democrats are working so hard within the last 10-year span or so to really try and get a woman elected president. I mean, this is our second female nominee that we've had in a time of like what, three presidential life cycles. So that's huge. Now, also on Monday, it was 78 days until election day. That means that the American public has 78 days to, you know, get those disillusioned voters back interested and to the polls. And for every person you bring one more. And for you, it's like the way coronavirus spreads. You want to spread it to at least 6 or 4 people. The contagion of Harris mania, or comma mania. Colomania is what I don't know what they're calling it now. After a little while, I watching the speeches. First night was really good. Some people say it was blah. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Um, and Kamala made a guest appearance, which was adorable. And I will say, like, I didn't think I was gonna have to keep track, but I actually have a tally of how many times I cried. Um, It was up to 7 that night. So first night, 7 cries for me. Um, okay, so I also alliterations. I guess alliterations, like the congresswoman said, are back in. So I should have prepared an alliteration for this. Darn it. Okay. Also, Warnock again. Like I can see why they tried to cut down on some of the speeches the second night. I mean, Biden didn't get on till I was tired. I was basically falling asleep by the time Biden got on, and I'm not. I'm in Central Standard Time. I'm not even East Coast. Now, my nickname in college was Pumpkin, so that may have something to say about it. Now, um, again, Warnock coming on. I Georgia, I think, is really strong back in play again. And like seeing him out there, by far, he was one of the best speakers. But this man has been speaking from a pulpit like that for the majority of his career. It's only, I mean, it's still civil service. I mean, he was a preacher, that's a civil service. Now he's moved into more a broader community service because, you can only reach so far of your congregation or whatever as a preacher. I mean, some can get a national stage, but here he's, speaking for a whole state and representing the cause on a larger national level. But man, he is definitely one of the best speakers. His hyperbole and his alliterations were so trained and communicated so skillfully that you really saw it was all like he didn't want to get off the stage because it seems like it'd been a while. Like from what I understand, he still goes back some Sundays and preaches at the his former congregation, which was, I believe, Martin Luther King's congregation, and he still does that. But I believe, but it seemed like he had not been in front of an audience like that for a while, and it's like when his speech ended, you could kind of see he just stopped. He kept going, even though there was no teleprompter words. So, he, yeah, he was a man of faith without being a man of judgment. And I find it's really hard to find religious leaders these days that can maintain a level of dignity regarding a voice for faith without becoming a you know a pulpit of judgment. So I enjoyed his speech. It went on terribly long, but it was still you could tell um, you know his skill and his enjoyment in this interaction. Now, again, one of the times cry is when they brought on the three women, one each a different story of their struggle with a fertility issue. Um, the woman, who basically whose child was dead inside of her, and she was being required to carry it to her, basically to the detriment of her actual life and the possibility of her prolonged fertility. And it just they brought these in a young girl who was pregnant at 13 by her step or 12 by her stepfather. I mean, I just I hope that man is burning somewhere on a stake. Honestly, the fact that I don't know what happened. I mean, and in the state that she lived in, other states, like I don't know if it's the state she lived in, but she mentioned the number of states where a woman of her age and her circumstance would not be allowed the dignity of an abortion because too many unempathetic men have decided for her the value that her life isn't worth as much as the possible symbiote fetus that is inside her womb. Again, just disgusting. And again, another woman who couldn't have access to her health care that she needed. I mean, all three women, it, it it killed you a little bit inside, and because some of it can be so distant. And as an individual, I've never had an abortion, I've never been pregnant, I don't ever want to be pregnant. But I these stories are distant for me. I was never sexually molested by my father um, when I was young, ever. Sorry, ever. Um, and I have never had. I have plenty of women, female friends, obviously, who have gotten abortions and have had the right to an abortion. I have never carried a child that would miscarry, so I never have had to go through that pain either. So some of it can seem very distant and more theoretical than practical. These are all like theoretical circumstances in my mind, but it's moments like these where you remember the real life sacrifice and issues that families and women have to go through due to the inconsiderate, inhumane, and unempathetic policies that I have to say predominantly white men are setting out, and certain white women are um, promoting because of some disassociation with their body. I'm not sure why. I don't get it, but very good. All in all, I would say, I mean, I was excited. Like it was again that joy is back. I mean, this excitement is back. This crowd is full force into it. So I was really pumped after the first night. Now let's move on to day two. Dos, duo, um, zwei, not zwei, zwei. I marked down here that I own. Nope, nope. I cried twice. Um, I gotta say the line. I mean, I had to rewatch the roll call because I didn't watch the whole thing when it was happening live. Some of it, very. I mean, I like the vibe of it, the dance party vibe. I feel like some of it, like the music in the background was a little too loud during times when they were trying to speak, and it caused some of the speakers to kind of get like they couldn't hear what they were saying, they couldn't hear what people around them were saying. I think the sound technicians didn't do a good job regulating that, which made some of their speeches, I mean, poor guy from Wisconsin, Evers. He couldn't figure out. And then, I mean, there was literally one woman. I don't remember what state it was. You could hear her speaking because she kept saying, "I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. I can't." And everybody could hear her saying, "I can't hear anything," but she couldn't hear herself saying she couldn't hear anything. So there's some few hiccups there. I think they could have done. I mean, this is the first time doing it. That if they tried to do it again, they could do a better job. But I do think, again, dancing is joy, music is emotional, evoking. It serves its purpose in any cinematic event. And if that's what they were trying to do here, is create a cinematic event, I think it was a semi-successful execution. Um, I mean, yeah. When Georgia Little John came out, I mean, that was just hilarious. It was all good. I love seeing the variety of actors or stars or political activists kind of intertwined in there with the representatives and the chairmen of the Democratic parties for each state. I do like that kind of soup of it. So it's not just so people are seeing, it's a broader, constituency. And a lot of these people had a lot of pride. Indiana, Rudy. So that was cool. But okay, so two. I mean, there are three main big events that night besides that. But I gotta say, I mean, the Doug Emhoff, like the intro that his son did for him, I was wondering who this was and where it was going. And I'm just like, that guy looks so familiar. Why does he look familiar? And I'm looking at this, and it's a story about him more than her at the beginning, and that is so cool. That was so cool, and the way his son and the mamala and how it interweaves into that. And I mean, even if he was a lawyer, he may not be the best orator. So I know they probably didn't get him out enough on the the trail to speak. He's going to have to work on his. I don't know if Michelle Obama wants to teach him. And Michelle Obama can teach anybody, everybody some lessons on on how to orate because she was perfection. But Doug's, I gotta say, I cried. I thought it was great. I thought it was humanistic. I am excited as just as excited as he is to possibly become the first gentleman of the United States of America. Like I'm excited for that to happen. Like I not I mean I am excited for feet. I was excited if Clinton was elected female president and Bill Clinton. That would have been crazy. The former president of the United States becoming the current first gentleman of the United States. I mean that would have just been crazy. But I like even that glass ceiling I thought was exciting. So I mean there's this is the possibility where there's not going to be a FLOTUS. I don't know how they're going to do it for Jurdis. For Jurdis, I don't know. But it was good. I hope he gets better at speaking because that story was great. His son did a great job. Really enjoyed it. Now, top of the show, Michelle Obama. I mean, woman, oh woman, her two. I mean, her outfit, her hair. Woman walked out just every time, man. She is just like on point. She looked phenomenal. And I love, okay, the two main lines, I mean, everyone is going to pull from this, is, well, okay, there's three. We don't have the luxury of falling forward. Great one. We don't have the luxury of affirmative action of generational wealth. I mean, her grit. It was all about grit. And that's what I really think she was trying to encompass the grit of America, the grit of perseverance, the grit of not giving up, the grit of striving for a dream, not complaining and whining and bitching all over, your Twitter account or your social media account or your congressional stage or to your constituents or just not making excuses but the grit behind what it really takes to create something. And people sometimes have a negative version of the government. They da, 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 da. I'm like, what exactly are you expecting government to do for you? Because they're there to help you achieve your goals. Like this is the point. They can do so much for you until you have to take charge of your life and you need to step out and create your own destiny. Now, if the government's not there helping you, it's much harder, but it has been. So I'm wondering where these people who hate government and think it's all encroaching but depend on it every day of their lives, really where their understanding of government is and how they see it. Especially those people like, oh, I mean, I just listened to a horrible interview with a famous singer, and he's like, I can't believe you believe in voting. It's like, you're smart enough to know better than that. They just, every 4 years, they get you to, like, you know, basically fight against your fellow man. I'm thinking, every 4 years, why is this guy only voting? Well, one, he can't vote. He's a criminal or felon. So they can't vote. But even your understanding is there's elections every year. There's votes every year, whether it's a proposition for your city or your state, or you're voting for a legislative candidate, which is every 2 years, whether it's a governor, I mean, that can be offset. I mean, they run for 6 years, but they're not every presidential. The presidentials are every 4 years. But if that's what you think voting is, and if that's what you think government, no wonder you don't understand, and it is like what it is. But again, that's just where are these people coming from, and that's what Michelle is talking about, that grit to go out there and believe in it and fight for it. I mean, and then her last, which zinger. Uh, who's gonna tell them that the presidency is gonna be one of those black jobs? I mean, I don't know how much she had to do with the writing of her speech, and what percentage it was a speechwriter. I mean, obviously, both Obama and her have a heavy hand in it, because that's how they want to come out. Like, you know, this is their image, this is their branding, this is how they want to present themselves. So it's not going to be too diverged from a voice in which they themselves, you know, um, give the stamp on. So it's going to be formed in general by their initial outline of what their message is. And in her case, it was a lot about grit. Now, and family, and the importance of family. But whoever helped her fine tune that and put in some of these zingers, I mean, bravo, bravo. Now, of course, after her, and of course, I cried during her speech. Who doesn't? But after her, she obviously introduced her husband, Barack, who was good. Barack is Barack, um, and he's definitely a skilled orator. But he didn't come out there with the attitude that she came out there with. I'm a woman. I am sick of this BS, and this is what we're going to do about it. And I have my children, my daughters have a lot more to lose here. So I'm gonna sit you. I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm going to paint you a picture here, and then I'm gonna make you feel guilty if you're not doing anything about it, because she'd be disappointed in you if you didn't. That disappointed. And Brock comes out there with his own form of attitude. When the boo, don't boo, vote. And they would go back to some of their lines from Hope, from when they ran for president and things like that. And he was good. And I love like that he does that. One of the most conservative guys in Congress. You just see like he kind of like, can you believe it? On some of the context, and everyone will be. A lot of people are going to and have already picked up on a certain gesture that he did at a point in time when he mentioned the crowd size thing, and the illusion of him referring to a certain gentleman's genitals and their insecurities about size, which I did not pick up on that at first. I had to, probably because I was like, moving around a little bit and trying to get things done again because it got kind of late. And so I missed out on him doing the whole thing. But he was still, I mean, he's still good, just wasn't Michelle. Of course, nobody's Michelle. And every time, people anywhere, as one even British woman said, in the world, watches Michelle Obama speak, and like, why couldn't that woman run for president? And we all know she's not ever going to do it, because she never wants to be involved in that ecosystem again. Like right now, they're fine on the peripheral. They're doing their more community organizing and their nonprofit work, which can distance itself from the, I don't know, roly poly, hibbly hobbity, the rigmarole of backdoor dealing, backroom dealing. Um, but it was it was as well. I don't know if they're going to top it tonight. I know Waltz is speaking tonight. I know Clinton is speaking tonight, the other Clinton. But I got to tell you, they have a star studded lineup of general government participators and civil service participators that uh, is quite impressive. The bench within the Democratic Party and the future of where it's going and the opportunities for some of these individuals, you see it now. Like I, I honestly I didn't watch the RNC um, very long. Like I would put it on shortly, but and then rewatch some of the speeches if they were promoted, whatever. But I can't say. I mean, obviously biasly, I don't think they had anywhere close to the lineup that bless me, that the Democratic Party had going into this, and it is also hopeful and very hopeful. Like I don't know if they're going to secretly bring on Buttigieg tonight, because obviously he'd be a phenomenal speaker. I don't know if he's allowed to as Secretary of Transportation. Actually, he may not be because I'm trying to think if there's any actual direct person from the administration. I mean, obviously Biden spoke and Kamala Harris spoke, but trying to think if there's anyone else from the administration that has spoken yet. I don't know the campaign rules on that. But anyways, the only way that tonight could possibly pump up what happened last night and the night before is if a Buttigieg came out. Oh, or I think Shapiro's supposed to. No, Shapiro might be on the last. I don't remember. I don't even remember if I saw him speak yesterday. Maybe I forget. But anyways, round up of the first few nights. I definitely cried way more on the first night than the second night, but I still cry. I would say I would have cried 3 nights on the second night because when I was rewatched the roll call today, I cried a little. Um, and I sang some of the songs. But all in all, overall, enjoying it so far. I think it is what the party needed. It was a big dose, syringe full of glitter and glow in the dark sticks. It has party people in the house tonight, right? All over the place. And I think like one of the parts I during the roll call that I just teared up a little was my Democrats of Abroad group reading out their delegate votes because I was part of the Democrats Abroad for a long time. I was a proud expat voting in a foreign country and volunteering and working with the Democrats Abroad to get those expats registered to vote and out to vote. So it was very nostalgic for me, and I enjoyed it. Uh, Having said that, I wish you all the best. I hope you've been enjoying watching it. If you haven't watched it, if you're only watching the highlights, I recommend again PBS. Watching it on PBS, not the News Hour, but the PBS. It might be News Hour, but it's the one where it's just a raw feed, so you're not getting interrupted by all that commentary dialogue that anchors will do and things like that. And it's just a quick roundup afterwards with some of the people. But PBS, I definitely recommend. YouTube, you can watch it anywhere in the world. Everyone have a lovely day and enjoy. Thanks for stopping by.